Hey there everybody, this is Caitlin here and welcome to our second video for Curriculum Tuesday and our very last spoiler video before Echoes of the New World is released. The full kind of set list will be revealed on Friday, even though there has been several leaks and whatnot, which I did discuss in my earlier video today. But regardless, we are looking at this final lot of spoilers that Force will be releasing officially, and then we will know everything coming into the set on Friday, although we do have a pretty good idea of like the majority of things that are out if you did see some of those leaks. But regardless, we're going to go in here and we finally have some SRs. I feel like it's been ages since we actually seen an SR or whatever in any of these spoilers. But first up, we have Alice, Girl of the Blue Planet, looking absolutely gorgeous here. Is a 2-cost water resonator, 2 water for 500, 600. She's a wanderer, so you could play her in the Wanderer deck, whatever she else is Will of Hope, so you could play her in the Will of Hope deck. She's a flying resonator with a seal of 4, so pretty decent seal. It's not like too high or whatever. When you have 4 more magic stones, she gains access to a God's Art. So this is the very first instance of a resonator actually having a God's Art, and it's very interesting. It's called Azure Bonds. You pay 0 for it, so basically you don't pay anything. Name a non-magic stone card. As long as this card is in the field, players cannot play cards with that name. So it's very, very interesting here. Obviously, since it's a God's Art, you can only do it once per game. So you can only, even if you had multiple copies of the same Alice or whatever, you can only God's Art once. You can only pick one card or whatever, and it's a really interesting one. I know there's some debate about whether, say, if this Alice leaves the field and you put in a different Alice, would that mean that you could still have that card not be playable for the rest of the game? Or does it mean that since you've already done the God's Art, that Alice is just null and void now or whatever? I'm not too sure, but it's very interesting. I mean, you could use that to, stop a spinning mist. You could use it to stop Black Moonbeam. You could use it to, keep an Abdul out of the field or whatever. And I'm not quite sure how it would work with Chimeras, because obviously Chimeras aren't specifically played from hand, they're played from outside the game, so I'm not sure if you could affect Chimeras and whatnot. You could maybe even also stop people playing even Leviton. That would be a good call as well. Just make sure that they can't play Leviton at all. One Secluded Refuge, any of the kind of annoying cards, whatever, that can really mess with your strategy. It is a very nice card. I'd maybe only run one of it, or maybe keep it in side deck, depending on what colours you're running. Obviously, it's more viable for a blue deck since it's a blue cost resonator. But obviously, I think in the Wanderer deck, you could obviously maybe play it. I can't remember whether he can play Wanderers with any colour. I don't think he can. It's the Will of Hope book or whatever that lets you play it with any colour, I believe, or any attribute or whatever, since she's a Will of Hope resonator. So it's a very interesting card here. I like the little text at the bottom here. It says, "The light of the earth shone upon Alice, and at last everything was clear." Seems very ominous here. Pretty much more ominous as we get into our next card, which is another SR. And you could almost say that it mirrors the previous card because it is Dark Alice, Manifestation of Rage. And oh my gosh, this artwork is absolutely gorgeous. I will be trying my best to get full arts of almost all the rares so far, because literally they are all absolutely beautiful. She is a 2-cost resonator, similar to the other Alice, but she's 2 dark, and she's a 500 Wanderer with Will of Hope, interestingly enough. So she's not actually evil, it seems, even though she is Dark Alice. It seems that she seems to be on the hero side for some reason. When this card enters your field, you can remove all resonators in your opponent's graveyard from the game. For each resonator removed this way, put a 100/100 counter on this card, which is very, very nice indeed. Kind of it's a cheap card that is actually really good in-game wise if your opponent has a lot of stuff in the grave. And when this card leaves your field for an on-field zone, put a 100/100 Darkness Shadow resonator token into your field for each 100/100 counter on this card. So basically spam the field with tokens, and you can release the seal abilities of darkness cards and spells you control. So here's our card, whatever, that lets us release the seals on darkness and everything like that. So very interesting card. I like the kind of buffing and token mechanic, whatever. You could definitely use this in, say, a Dark Alice deck, which is also using the Schrodinger that produces shadow tokens, sticking a Dark Faria there as well. All those tokens get buff as all heck. And then at the bottom here we have, "No more waiting, I'm finally going to do what I want." Let's go straight down here. Massacre mode. So basically, Blackheart Alice has been either defeated or she's been cured. We're not sure how exactly she got cured yet, but it seems Dark Alice and Alice are now separate beings once again, and they're just going to be separate entities from the looks of it. Next up, we have Neo Barrier of Shadows. In addition, it's 2 cost, 1 darkness and 1 void. Your opponent pays 1 more to play activate abilities of resonators they control, so basically locking down those sacred elves and everything like that. As a Seal of Ape, obviously you don't need to worry about that if you've got Dark Alice in play. Your opponent can't play non-will activate abilities, so that's a very, very evil one. That's actually quite a good counter, or at least a nice backup as well to having the normal Barrier of Shadows, because obviously that stops, or it doesn't stop, but it means that you have to pay for for Regalia activate abilities, you have to pay more for Judgment and for God's Arts and whatnot. So this actually goes rather hand in hand, whatever. It's definitely a sideboardable card, I feel like. And at the bottom we have, I'm so sick of these pests, lock them up, Schrodinger. And Schrodinger's just like, meow. Next up, we have, like, the most depressing card I've ever seen since we got full-on crying full art of Kaguya from before. We have Kaguya, Love of the Moon. She's a 2-cost Resonator of 1 Wind and 1 Water. She's a 600/600 Wanderer with Will of Hope. This card cannot be attacked, which is actually really interesting. So I guess it just means that either it needs to be banished or it needs to be straight up removed so nobody can attack it. It has a seal of 10, but I'm assuming as long as you have, like, maybe one of the cards that releases seals for water or for wind, then you wouldn't have to worry too much about it. This card gains the following text when you have 10 or more magic stones or you've released the seal. This card gains 200, 200 and flying, so it's an 8/8 flyer. If you would draw a card, put a card from your graveyard into your hand instead. If a card would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, remove it from the game instead. Even if you have no cards in your graveyard, you still do not draw cards. It's a really strange Resonator here. I'm not quite sure what exactly kind of deck they were aiming for her to go in. The most I can think of is maybe Yggdrasil, or the new Yggdrasil, like the evil one, or whatever. So I can't, honestly, this card is, like, gives me a mixed feeling. Like, I love the artwork on that. I'm just trying to think of, like, a viable deck or whatever where that ability would actually be helpful at all. But also the card art is actually really sad because she's got Tama in her lap and it looks like they're looking up at the moon or something like that. She's probably thinking about feasting, probably. Next up, we have Charlotte, Last Hope of Attoractia, and it looks like she's finally got her water transformation down, because look at those gorgeous, that looks like a dragon, and that looks like kind of like a phoenix, or some kind of raptor bird, or something like that. She's a 500/500, 2-cost, 1 water, 1 void, a wizard. You're a wizard now, Harry. She's a Will of Hope, and you may pay 1 less to play Chad. So, a pretty simple card, you know, not gonna lie. A lot of the time, we've seen a lot of spells or whatever that have been pretty cheap, and that they don't have many void costs, so I guess it really just depends, what chance you really want to play there. She's a pretty simple Resonator, to be fair. Next up, we have Maria Bella, the True Shot. This is one of the cards that was mentioned previously in one of the other spoilers. She's a 1-cost Void Resonator for 200, 200. She's a Heroic Spirit. You can tap her and put a 100, 100 counter on her, and you can pay 2 and tap her. Remove X amount of 100, 100 counters from this card. You search your deck for a Resonator with total cost X or less with no attribute and put it into your field. Then shuffle your deck. So this is kind of an interesting card. Obviously, with the searching out stuff with no attribute and it having to be a Resonator, this kind of leans into it being for probably for a machine deck, which is actually really strange that they did that, considering that not many things don't have an attribute nowadays, and considering that most things that don't have an attribute are actually machines, and machines rotate out in September. I'm very curious as to why they did this. My only assumption is maybe that they will continue to print cards with no attribute, maybe not specifically machines, but basically maybe other races or creatures or whatever that don't have an attribute. I don't know. I mean, that's the only reason I can think of why they would make this card so late off. This feels like a card that should have been back in Alice Cluster, now that I think about it, because obviously her and Machina have no attribute, and I believe these are the only cards this set that have no attribute at all, other than, say, the Vingolf 3 Machina, who technically was a Darkness and a Water, but he counted as being no attribute, so I guess you could technically search him, because his card states he has no attribute. I don't know if that would count or whatever, so it's a very strange card. I do love the artwork, though. The artwork is very nice, and like the quote down at the bottom just gives me so many feels. I'm just like, Master Machina gave me life, I will give him freedom. And last but not least, we have your girl, your hero, Priscilla, ready for the final battle. She's no longer got butt wings. You know, she's kind of recovered from her phoenix fever, or whatever we're going to call it. She's no longer the maiden of reincarnation and whatnot. She's kind of calmed down from her fiery days, and she's just a mono green Resonator for 2 wind and 3 void. She's a 1000 beast with Will of Hope. She is a beast. My god. When this card enters your field, or whenever it attacks, destroy a target Resonator your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to this card's attack. And if you do, put 2 100 counters on this card. Oh my god, this card is just a boss. I absolutely love it. Can you imagine this with Priscilla's Call to Action, or whatever the card is called, or whatever? You know, since she's a beast, you don't have to pay the green to give her, like, swiftness and whatnot. You also get to draw a card, all that wonderful stuff. It is such an amazing card. Like, this will be really great for, like, I'm guessing, I'm trying to think of a really good one, like a ramping, maybe mono green deck. That would be a pretty good shout for her. Get her in as early as you can and just start wrecking things, because obviously, even though it says when this enters or whenever it attacks, if you had an Abdul in the field, the enter effect wouldn't happen, but obviously it's whenever it's attacking or whatever, so that would still trigger, I believe. And at the bottom here it says, Shion, I'm going to set you free, and then we're going home. So it's nice to see that Priscilla still thinks about Shion. Whether Shion is able to actually come back or not is another thing, because obviously we know Valentina is losing control, or like basically crumbling away in Shion's body. We don't know whether Shion will actually live this, or whether she'll literally just return as a corpse, because obviously she died. She was dead at some point. So I'm very interested about that, to see how that resolves, whether Priscilla can actually save Shion, or whether she is just done and dead. But anyway, guys, that's it for these last spoilers. I might do a video where I go over some of the cards, whatever, from the article that'll be coming up. I'm guessing it's an article, or the update to the database. Mainly, maybe just to pick some cards out that I'm interested in. Other than that, I might not go too heavily into it, because I know some people don't want to be totally spoiled and whatever. They want to wait till the booster box opening to see all those beautiful cards and whatnot. So I'm very interested in the set. I'm heavily invested. All the artwork, or at least the majority of the artwork, has been super pretty. The cards have been like super interesting, super viable, I think, and I'm just so excited for the set. I am definitely going to be going to pre-release this Saturday. I will be doing a video on that, always, like, whenever I can get the chance, whatever, I will do a video on that. For the rest of this week, we've got Speed Color on Friday, and potentially another video. I believe I'm going to be talking about Steven Universe or something like that. So until next time, guys, I will see you all later.